Happy to introduce Simon Thun next. Simon is the Global Chief Client Officer and CEO Central and Eastern Europe at Interbrand and brings over 20 years of consulting expertise in marketing, brand, and business strategy to our stage. With a remarkable track record of partnering with top global brands such as Allianz, Bertelsmann, BMW, and Siemens, he has guided senior management teams towards unprecedented success across Europe, the US, and China. As the CEO of Interbrand Central and Eastern Europe, Simon leads the strategic development and growth of the company in this dynamic region, setting new benchmarks for excellence and innovation. With his extensive background in leading consultancy firms like Saatchi and Profit, Simon has been at the forefront of digital transformation and strategic partnerships. He brings to us his keynote, "The business of business is no longer just business." Let's hear him.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and over the next minutes I want to talk really about impact. What do businesses have to do? How do they have to change to really make an impact? And we've heard today a lot about the potential impact of AI, or the actual impact AI already has today. And there are all these tools out there for text, for video, for pictures, for programming. There's plenty of them. But let's face it, this is only one of the developments which is going on. I think if we take a step back and just see, there's so much happening in the world. We have political tensions, the topic of diversity is getting more important, climate, also not a small topic. We have the pandemic, a war in Europe, who have thought of that? Inflation, social as a very different way of engaging with people nowadays. And yes, again, there's AI. So there's a lot to take in, a lot of risks out there, and maybe also the one or other opportunity. And you could say, so why should brands care about that? And we're assessing the value of brands since more than 20 years, and this is kind of, this graph shows how the value of the top 100 brands has grown over the last 20 years, and why should they care? Like the value is constantly on the rise. And it's very simple to answer that, because study shows that customers are increasingly judging companies very quickly, judging brands very quickly, if they're either part of the problem or if they're part of the solution. And that relates to the big topics which are happening in the world. So it's not enough to only have a great business and do the things you're doing. You have to also think about what are the bigger topics happening in the world and how do we position ourselves to this topic. Yes, the mic works? Okay. So the role of a brand actually has to change. And if we look back over the last decades, it has changed dramatically already. So there was a time when everything was around identity. So the brand was mainly there to identify a brand. Then people recognized it's also an asset, it's a value. I don't know if the mic still works, sorry. Then we had to move into experiences. So it's more than only kind of what you put in communications. You really have to bring this to the people in everyday life. And then we moved to the stage which we call the age of you, where it's more and more about personalization. So making sure you're also living in ecosystems, you're connecting with all the relevant partners around you. But there's even more happening right now. And the question is, what are the top growing brands doing nowadays? And I want to share some observations we had over the last years, what's happening, what the top brands are doing, and I think it's relevant for also all other brands. So top brands, without doubt, they are great at having flawless interactions. So they know how to interact with customers, with different stakeholders. They know how important it is to create meaningful experiences. They talk the walk. So brands are a lot about also communication, bringing out your message to the world. And many of them have been around for a long, long time. So they know how to do things right. But this is not enough anymore. This is more and more balanced by additional perspectives here. And I want to show you 4 examples to explain that a bit. So look at Nike. Nike is without doubt a brand which is very, very strong in interactions and also going into new platforms, trying out new things, finding new ways of engaging with people. But this is only part of the equation. Over the last years, they have more and more taken on the role of also driving actions. So taking the lead on conversations. You probably all know the Colin Kaepernick campaign they ran a few years ago. You probably also know the products they now have, where they say we take up these topics which are really important to our audience, and we lead the way. So we act, and we not only interact. So that's the first really important shift. The second example is Lego. So Lego, obviously, they're great at creating experiences, being with the small bricks for the kids and also the grown-ups, theme parks, movies. So it's all about experiences. What not many people actually know, it's more and more balanced also by ethics. And I don't mean the plastics part of it, which obviously is a concern. But one of the topics we know that Lego, for example, is considering, should we really go into the metaverse? Because the core idea of the brand is ensure safe play. And are we ready to go into the metaverse right now? Can we really ensure that no kid will come to harm in this environment? So they're actually not doing a lot of things, or doing things a bit later, because they know we have to make sure that we always protect the core of a brand. We protect the safe play. So experiences is more balanced by ethics. Another example is Airbnb. So who knows the brand? Like at the center of the brand, it's this idea of belonging anywhere. So it's not just about booking a hotel or booking a journey somewhere, but what you're actually booking is to really immerse into a city, to immerse into a community. And that's what they're bringing out in their communications. So talking the walk, pushing this forward. But this more and more also has to come to life internally. So Airbnb was one of the first companies through the pandemics who said, actually, you can work from anywhere. And we will even keep that after the pandemic. They are very open in terms of diversity, because if you don't hold true to this idea of belonging anywhere, which meaning this is relevant for everyone, why should they be able to sell this to the customers? So it's less today only about what you talk outside, it's also how you live this on the inside. You cannot separate that anymore. And the last example I wanted to share is Apple, like no brand presentation without Apple. And obviously Apple is doing a lot of things right. Yeah? And I don't know if you've ever discovered that, but Apple has over the last years focused a lot of investment, not only in communications, but in the actual experience. If you open an Apple iPhone box or iPad box, there is this air pressure which builds up, which makes it a bit difficult to open it up. This is by purpose. This gives you kind of a feeling of this is really valuable. But doing the right things is only the one area. The other is doing things right. So the big push of Apple towards privacy, which causes a lot of concerns in the US tech world, social media world, is exactly that. They listened to their customers and they understood it's not only about creating products, creating amazing products and always the next big thing, but it's also honing on in what's really relevant to our customers. And just to bring these perspectives together, so if you want to be successful in business today, if you want to do what the top growing brands are doing, you have to start balancing. It's not only about doing your business, having great interactions, having great experiences, doing all the communications around it, and just being really good at what you are. You have to think about the additional side here. You have to think about where do you take the lead? And I think it's a great example here, the activity, this idea with a hat, like that's leading the way. That's taking an action, and it's not only interacting. It is about integrity. It's so important for businesses nowadays because remember, brands are what people use to hold businesses accountable. You can say whatever you want out there, but if your brand and then your company doesn't hold up to it, you're gone very, very quickly. So what we call this is kind of brand leadership and brands as acts of leadership. So the top brands, what they're doing today is they've added another layer here. So definitely they still all use their brand as an identifier, and they're proud of their brand, rightly. It's still the topic of an asset. They're doing a lot to protect their brand. They're building the ecosystems with partners. They're building experiences. But they also see themselves as organizations, as brand who can lead, who can change. And that's the key thought to understand. We're living in this age of possibility. There's a lot of change out there. There's a lot of risks we can be afraid of, but we can also try to find a way. But the important thing is to take the role of leader, to go out there and do something, because that's the only thing that will ultimately make a difference. So what I would want to end up with is really this one thought that we hear more and more that change has never been as central to all of us. So I just started with that, saying all the things which are changing, and everyone is thinking of when can we get back to normal, when can we relax a bit more. We also know that people look more and more at businesses to react to this change, because they say sometimes we don't fully trust the government, or government is too slow. They want businesses to take a lead in this. And if that's the case, and we know that brands also are very central to the success of a business, you can kind of do the math. So what comes out of that is like brands have never been as central to change as they have been today. So I would just encourage you, if you go out there here, think about this. Think about there's a business side, which is important, but you have to balance this with ethics. But most important, let's lead the change. Let's go out here to change something. And if that's one of the key messages you take out here, I think you will definitely change the course of your business and probably your personal life. Thank you very much.